Hello and welcome to Football Daily, where today we're looking at 10 scumbags who should have been given lifetime bans. 10. Eric Cantona. Man United legend Cantona was supremely talented, but failed to control his temper in the same way he could control a football. At 21 whilst playing for Auxerre, he punched his own goalkeeper in the face and was suspended by Marseille for throwing the ball at the referee. When summoned to a hearing to answer for his actions, he called each member of the committee an idiot and saw his ban doubled. Cantona also had a penchant for amateur martial arts, spending months on the sideline after a filthy tackle in France, and at United he sat out the best part of a year after a Bruce Lee roundhouse on a Crystal Palace supporter. Ever the entertainer though, Cantona admitted the incident was a mistake, but nonetheless called it a happy memory. 9. Elizabeth Lambert. How rough can college football really be? Pretty rough if you're up against Elizabeth Lambert, who lit up YouTube back in 2009 after a disgustingly dirty performance for the University of New Mexico. Playing in defence, Lambert racked up the Vinnie Jones hat-trick of 3 red card offences, booting one opponent, punching another in the back before throwing a third to the ground using the poor woman's ponytail. However, the ref refused to punish any of the incidents, only producing the yellow when Lambert kicked the ball into the face of a striker who was already lying on the ground in pain. UNM suspended her after the video was picked up on social media, and Lambert herself publicly apologised, saying, "My actions were uncalled for. This is in no way indicative of my character or the soccer player that I am." Bullshit. 8. Jermaine Pennant. Jermaine Pennant always was a dickhead, though he was once touted as one of England's best young talents as well. Acquired by Arsenal at just 15 for £2 million, Pennant squandered his ability, routinely turning up late to training and developing a drinking problem. In 2005, the Englishman was arrested after he chased his Mercedes into a lamppost before attempting to drive it on. His blood alcohol was twice the legal limit, and his speech was slurred when police tried to question him. Desperate to avoid jail time, Pennant told the cops that he was Arsenal teammate Ashley Cole. Believe it or not, that didn't work, and Pennant was handed a 3-month prison sentence for stupidity, recklessness, and trying to blame it on a friend. Pennant goes on our list a grade A bellend. 7. Gabi. Yes, Atletico Madrid's captain is at number 7. An Atleti youth product, the Spaniard left the club at 24 for Real Zaragoza. The Blanquillo were a yo-yo club, getting relegated with Gabi in their midfield before bouncing straight back up. 2 years later, the team needed a win over Levante on the last day of the season to stay in the top flight, and their captain came up with the goods, letting a brace in a 2-1 win. However, claims later emerged that the match had been fixed, and Gabi was questioned in court. The midfielder admitted he did what the club asked, allowing €85,000 to be deposited into his bank account temporarily by the club president, and acknowledging that the cash was for club business, presumed to be a dodgy payoff. But Gabi wasn't charged, and he pointed out that he had not benefited from Zaragoza's win, having already agreed to rejoin Atletico Madrid at the end of the season. Dodgy stuff. 6. Adrian Mutu. Most players love the game. Some love the money, some love the fame, but Adrian Mutu just loved the coke. The forward joined Chelsea back in 2003 for a pricey €22 million and celebrated with a coke binge, which saw him banned for 7 months and slapped with a fine of €30,000. Chelsea released Mutu and sued him for breach of contract, with the Romanian ordered to pay the Blues €17 million, and somehow he didn't learn from the experience, as after resurrecting his career with Fiorentina years later, he failed another drugs test, this time for a diet pill. He has also punched opponents and been investigated for beating up a waiter. What a nice guy. 5. Frank Lampard. Frank Lampard seems squeaky clean, but the Englishman was forced to go on an apology tour of New York before his move to New York City FC in 2015. Newspapers reprinted claims from 2001 that the day after the 9/11 attacks, Lampard, John Terry and Ida Johnson had joked to Americans about them while waiting for a flight at Heathrow Airport. Apparently, the Blues stars got drunk, stripped off and then targeted US tourists before vomiting in a hotel lobby. Chelsea docked the players 2 weeks' wages, donating the money to families of the disaster. Whilst Lampard and Johnson went on to become legends for their national team, John Terry went on to become an even bigger wanker. 4. Luis Suarez. Luis Suarez always wanted to reach the top of the club game, and he was willing to do anything to get there. The Uruguayan first bit an opponent whilst at Ajax to help force through an exit to the Premier League, and 2 years later he was at it again, biting Branislav Ivanovic as he attempted to leave Liverpool. Unfortunately for Suarez, the Reds were forgiving, and after a staggering year of 31 goals and 12 assists in just 33 league games, he had to sharpen his fangs again, this time taking a chunk out of Giorgio Chiellini at the 2014 World Cup. A 4-month ban followed, but that didn't stop Barcelona from paying more than €80 million for the striker, a fee which is still the 5th highest of all time, and Suarez has been noticeably well behaved since the move, bagging an astonishing 94 goals in 109 games for the Blaugrana, though he can perhaps count himself lucky to be playing at all. 3. Eduardo Berizzo. Centre-back Berizzo earned 13 caps for Argentina, also playing for River Plate, Celta Vigo and Marseille in an 18-year professional career. But the South American found France not to his liking, making some truly revolting comments after his departure in 2000. There are so many homosexual players there. They always provoke you. They touch your thighs, your bum, to see if you will give some kind of signal, Berizzo said. I feel disgusted when a homosexual shares the same shower and stares at one's bum with desire, and even gets emotional when you are naked. In a sport which has failed gay players time and time again, Berizzo somehow managed to make things worse, and he escaped without a ban or a fine. That's truly disgusting. 2. Andy Carroll. To be honest, Andy Carroll should have been banned for life after Liverpool paid €41 million for him back in 2011. The big striker registered just 6 league goals for the Reds and is yet to manage 10 in a season since leaving his native Tyneside. Embarrassing on the field, off it, Carroll is a real disgrace. At 20 years old, he was arrested for assault after glassing a man in a Newcastle nightclub, and later he broke the jaw of Magpies teammate Stephen Taylor in a training ground scuffle. He was once again arrested in 2010 and charged with assault after reportedly beating his girlfriend. Carroll said he had acted in self-defense and there was not sufficient evidence to make the charges stick, but somebody took justice into their own hands as Carroll's car was set on fire days later. 1. Emre. A midfielder who has played for Inter Milan, Simeone's Atletico Madrid and Newcastle, Emre earned more than 90 caps for Turkey and was named one of the 125 greatest living players by Brazilian legend Pelé. We can only assume that the great man didn't know about Emre's history of racism, with the Turk investigated 3 times for racial abuse during his time in England. The FA were unable to prove any of the cases, but Emre practically confirmed them himself on his return to Turkey. Playing for Fenerbahce, Emre squared off with Ivorian legend Didier Zokora, reportedly using the most appalling racist language in the exchange. He was banned for just 2 games, but the courts took a different view, as Emre was sentenced to 2.5 months in jail for the incident. So there we have it, but what do you guys at home think? Let us know in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, why don't you click here for loads more great content and down there to subscribe. And as always guys, we'll catch you later.